Welcome back to another episode of the Media Pass. I'm your host, Alex, joined as always by your other host, Matt. Matt, we're a week into the NBA season. How you doing?
I love basketball, man. Like, there's God. There's time. I'm sure you do this too, where you'll have like a random day where you're just not feeling it. And you're like, you start to like freak out a little bit in your head. You're like, I've sacrificed a lot in my life to pursue basketball as a career. And I'm worried I might get bored of it someday. And then like the season starts up and you're like watching games. Like, I got to watch this team. I got to watch that team. Wait, I got to scout this guy. I got to write about this guy. And you're like, there's just like not enough time in the day anymore. And then it's more like, you're not worried about whether or not you can do basketball for the rest of your life. You're worried about like whether or not you're going to lose all your loved ones in your pursuit and obsession of covering the sport. Me? Yeah. Seriously. I haven't seen her in like 3 days. You're going to end up like Tom Brady. You see that? You see the Brady picture that he posted?
No, but I do have a question. Tell me about this picture, but then I have a question about Tom Brady. Because I've been thinking about this a lot, but go ahead.
Apparently, did you hear Giselle's having a child with that like tennis instructor or whatever that she was having an affair with?
Yes.
So Tom Brady, right after that news came out, he posted a picture of like him like looking at the sunset, like just like reminiscing on life. There's a tweet. It's like, this is by far and away the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life. And that could very well be me and you someday. Like literally just so we could watch like Sixers Pacers regular season February basketball. Like both of our significant others just leave us and it's just me and you like riding off into the sunset.
I hope that doesn't happen. I really like my wife. Okay, so I need to find that picture because that sounds very, very funny.
I'll send you the tweet.
How do you are you a big football guy? Like, do you watch a lot of football?
NFL.
Okay,
I watch
cool.
I watch Michigan State for college, but mainly NFL.
Okay. Yeah, I watch way more NFL than I do college basketball or college football. Well, and college basketball, I guess. But how do you feel about Tom Brady as an announcer or commentator?
He's not bad. I think he's pretty good. I don't think he's better than Greg Olsen, whose spot he took. By the way, that tweet is in your DMs now, if you want to look at it. But I don't think he's better than Greg Olsen, whose spot he took. I think he's pretty good. I was talking about this with my buddies yesterday. I'm surprised that Belichick and him are both in media, and Belichick is better at it.
So, I guess in my head, guys, I'm so sorry because there are people who clicked on this. We're 3 minutes in and we have not talked a lick of basketball really at all. We're going to wrap this up quick. I may end up cutting this out, but this is just an interesting conversation that has been on my mind for a while and I need to talk to somebody about it. I wonder how much that has to do with the oratorial skills of being an NFL head coach. I would imagine that has a lot of direct translation to like a broadcast position. And I guess you could also make the argument that being an NFL quarterback requires a lot of oratorial skills and like the relaying of information and the communication skills necessary to be able to like successfully commentate a game. But yes, Belichick is definitely better at it. I'm surprised how because Belichick's whole thing was it is this kind of like very brunt dude who like one word answers, super, super serious. I'm surprised how charismatic Bill Belichick is. Like he's like enjoyable to listen to. And I'm like, oh, you seem like a like nice person, which I would have never gotten that from his press conferences.
He's like, I don't know, this last year, he's just really surprised me. I think it starts with like, first of all, his advanced understanding of philosophy, right? And then the fact that he used his advanced understanding of philosophy to like pick up some like 30-year-old woman. Just insane behavior, impressive. So the fact that he's doing that, he's like really charming, really cool. Like he's like kind of like a guy you can hang out with. It reminds me a lot of Greg Popovich. I think a couple years ago, like, when the Spurs were still like a really good team, I kind of always looked at him as like this drill sergeant coach. Like, no nonsense, whatever. And then like, I think the last couple of years he's gotten older. He's become more comfortable expressing himself. Like we see all this stuff with like his progressive thinking as it pertains to like social justice and social reform. And then he just like, I don't know, you see him put his arms around players, really take him by his side and coach him up and all that stuff. I don't know. I feel like maybe as you get older, you just become more in touch with your own mortality and you just become more chill. You start dating 30-year-old women. I don't know.
My whole thing with Tom Brady, I guess we kind of got off the rails here. Last thing we'll say about Tom Brady. I just feel like when he commentates, yeah, he does like the stuff that a color commentator is supposed to do of like describing what happened on the play or like doing the Tony Romo thing where you're like, oh, they're about to like, you know, run a halfback dive here, like stuff like that. But also like you can tell Tom Brady just loves football. Like that dude is obsessed with football. And I like when he talks about like the passion that players play with. I'm like, that's cool. Cause I feel I don't want to say that's like missing in basketball, but like there's a lot of putting down the sport in the basketball world where like the sport is never talked about in a positive light. It's always, what can we fix about basketball? Basketball is broken. We need to like put it back together. What do we need to change about the sport? Where the NFL is very much just like, it is what it is. And we're working with what we've got. And I don't know. Anyways, we can move on from that. But
I like that take. That's a good take. I appreciate that.
Thanks.
Good way to start the pod.
Hopefully we didn't lose too many people talking about literally a completely different sport. That being said, we do have one question from... Oh, go ahead.
Realized, I want to say this real quickly. I've realized we went on like a 5-month hiatus, didn't podcast, didn't say a word to anybody about anything. And like, we're just back and booming. And we're season 2. Last episode did great. Like people are listening. People are talking about us. Like, I don't know, man. I think we're incapable of losing people. We're invincible.
Knock on wood. We've also been described as humble. That being said, we've got one question. We've got one question from last episode. Guys, we were gone for a while, so I understand if you forgot. We're not mad. Not mad at anybody. I'm not disappointed. But we only had one question last week. So I'm not angry. I'm not disappointed. But I'm very upset that only one person felt the need to ask a question. Only one person had something burning on their hearts. And so if you have something that you've just been sitting with for a while, preferably basketball related, but we'll accept... we've talked about freaking Tom Brady for the first 5 minutes of this podcast. So if you got questions, leave them in the comments. We're going to answer them. Matt, let's answer this question to the best of our ability.
Well, fortunately enough, the question was asked by somebody by the name of Pino Blue Vogel 6458.
Frequent commenter, fan of the show. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Felt good to say that again.
Yeah. I like that. We're back, man. We're so back in season 2. I would like to hear your opinions on how Jaden Hardy stacks up in the rotation. It seemed Kid is going with Dinwiddie for stretches too. I think Hardy is better in every single way except for seniority. So what is Kid seeing that I don't?
So I admittedly have not watched a ton of I think I've watched 2 Mavericks games so far. Mm-hmm. And in those games, I mean, Dinwiddie, I don't think, like, just based on eye test, I don't know what the numbers have said. Dinwiddie hasn't looked bad. Like, I've been surprised because I think my expectations for Spencer Dinwiddie over the last couple of years have definitely waned to where I'm like, yeah, Spencer Dinwiddie's on a team. They might get something out of him. Probably not, though. Like, there's still things that he does well. Like, I'm pretty sure he's consistently efficient in isolation, which not a whole lot of teams are going to be getting a ton out of, like, just running Spencer Dinwiddie ISOs. In Jaden Hardy, I mean, it's like, yeah, you know, Spencer Dinwiddie has the seniority. He's got, like, one of our favorite words, institutional knowledge, that helps. But I do think there's something to be said for kind of handing the backup keys over to Jaden Hardy. Not saying he needs to be like your sixth man, but like handing him the keys to be like your full-time, like eighth man off the bench. Like, I do think there's something to be said for giving that responsibility to a young guy. That being said, we're like 5 games into the season. I think probably by like end of December, we're going to be like, yeah, Spencer Dinwiddie's playing 10 minutes a game. Jaden Hardy's playing like 18 minutes a game. Like, I feel like things will balance out as the season goes on. I wouldn't be surprised to see that change take place. And Kidd is very much a coach who seems a little stubborn with these things, like usually a month late to make changes that everyone's like screaming at him on Twitter about. But he does eventually make those changes, I feel like. So we'll see if that happens.
Are we sure that Jaden Hardy is better in every single way than Spencer Dinwiddie at this point? Like, I think upside wise, obviously Hardy, no doubt, but like, I don't know. Like, I feel like if you look at the numbers last year, like Dinwiddie was just as good, if not a little bit better than Jaden Hardy. And Dinwiddie had a bad year too. So did Hardy. But like, I mean, Dinwiddie's more proven. I guess that goes in the seniority point. But like, I could see why he's kind of running both, trying to get a feel for who's going to be that third guard off the bench, who's going to be kind of orchestrating the offense for like the first 3 minutes of the second quarter or whatever it is they're going to need him for. But I don't see any problem with him kind of just trying to get a feel for lineups.
I saw such a good quote the other day, and now I can't remember who it's from. And I'm not going to say the quote verbatim because I don't remember exactly what it was. But play so good to where the coach doesn't have a choice but to play you. And I feel like there's probably a little bit going on with Jason Kidd right now of like, make Jaden Hardy play so well that like Kidd has no choice but to play him more than Dinwiddie. And I think that's, for a young player, stuff like that, give him a challenge, give him something to work towards, like make Jaden Hardy earn it. I think there's no problem with that, especially with how good the Mavericks are projecting to be, that you can afford to have those kind of like mini games running in the background of your team as the season progresses. It's like, yeah, the Mavericks are going to make the playoffs. They're probably going to be a 50-win team. You know, if Jaden Hardy is playing less than you theoretically want him to be playing by the end of the season, it's like, cool, make it to where he earns those minutes. And I think that's okay. I like Jaden Hardy a lot. I've talked about him. I've made videos about him. I've talked about him a lot on this show, but yeah, I agree. Like, I'm not convinced that he is far and away completely undoubtedly better than Spencer Dinwiddie right now. So I think having this kind of, what is it in college football 25 where position battle, you have this kind of position battle going on in the background. I'm cool with that. I'm sure that's a very good like motivational tactic from a coaching perspective. You're a coach, you know all about this stuff. So.
Oh yeah, season's kicking off 2 weeks. Watch out.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be fun to keep up with. We're gonna have to chat about that.
Yeah.
Let's get into the meat and potatoes before people really start leaving. We're a week into the season. It's been fun. I've been basically all of my free time has involved watching basketball, whether it's watching tape or watching full games in some capacity, or writing or editing. So there's a lot to talk about. And so what Matt and I have done for you, our lovely viewers, is we have compiled each 3 overreactions / underreactions, if that's the framing you want to go with. We each have 3 overreactions / underreactions that we're going to unpack. And Matt, I want you to go first.
Wait a second. I thought you were doing the overreactions and I was doing the underreactions.
Oh, so it appears we have a bit of a miscommunication here.
Do you have how many overreactions and underreactions? Because I could think of an overreaction. But I have 3 underreactions.
Mine are all
Oh,
overreactions.
That's perfect. There we're good.
So we're good. Look at this. Come on, man.
Because I figured
back like we never left.
I figured it would make most sense because like I feel like anybody who listens to the show pretty frequently like knows like you're like always like, oh, like, you know, let's be optimistic. And I'm always like, you know, man, like life is hard. Life is sad. We're all going to die someday. But yeah. All right, I'll do my first underreaction before I say something else stupid. Actually, Alex, I want you to guess because you know me so well. You know how I think about basketball. Who is one player who has, you know, been pretty good on the box score that I love to, anytime I get a chance to poo-poo on, I have to talk about him. Last season when we did this podcast, he was like one of the guys I really, really harped on as people need to pump the brakes on. He plays, I'll give you a couple hints. Plays on a bad team, scores a lot of points, doesn't do anything else.
I already know who it is.
Who
It's
is
Cam
it?
Thomas.
Oh, yes, we are so bad. Yes.
Come on, man. Come on. Too easy.
Yeah, we got for the fifth or whatever year in a row it is at this point, we got to slow down on the Cam Thomas hype, man. Like, somebody's got to stop this. Okay, so if, you take a good look, you're like, well, Matt, this guy's a bucket. He's getting 27 points per game. And I'm like, there's a little more to it than that. And then they'll probably follow up with like, well, Matt, you said, true shooting, the efficiency, like this guy's +2 relative true shooting. He's shooting like 59% true shooting. Like, that's phenomenal. Like, this guy's incredible. 27 points, 59% true shooting. Like, somebody saved Cam Thomas from the Brooklyn Nets. And then this is where I come with no, he is right where he needs to be. There's a lot more that goes into basketball than just scoring. Okay. I know you're like, but at the end of the day, it's like, the game is tallied by points, right? Well,
game's about a bucket.
Yeah. Right. You need other things. You need playmaking. You need defense. You need to be able to play next to other players, right? And so if you look at his playmaking, he hasn't taken a leap in that regard. Last season, he averaged 2.9 assists per game. It's now 2.6, even though he's playing more minutes. That's not good. That's not good. That's not usually, for his player archetype, a guy who has the ball in his hands a lot. You don't like that, like high scoring, low assist. Like, you see that more with like the Peja Stojakovic, JJ Redick, Michael Redd, like these types of players. I know I'm just naming a bunch of dudes now, but like guys who play on ball, off ball, you can bring them off screens. It's not really Cam Thomas's jam. So yeah, not a great playmaker still. Defensively, so have you seen that Dunks and Threes has like revamped their website? They gave it like a facelift. So it has like a predictive EPM now. It's already up for the season, and he's still first percentile defensive EPM. Defensive metrics aren't everything, but if you're continuously finishing in the first percentile, that probably tells me you're not a good defender. And so this is all like kind of like me nitpicking, right? How are we supposed to know if Cam Thomas is helping his team win games or lose games? Well, there's this beautiful thing. It's called on-off data, right? And so if you look at his on-off data, the Brooklyn Nets are a minus 5.6 per 100 possessions when he is on the floor. Now, you might look at that and say he's playing for a bad team. Like, they're going to be bad. They're going to be at a negative deficit. The problem is they are 16.2 points worse when Cam Thomas is on the floor. So that means when he's off the court, they're actually a really good team. And I know it's a small sample size. There's only been like 55 or 60 minutes so far this season where he's been off the floor. But you could also look, the team has like positive shooting luck when he's on the court. Like they're, I think they're in the 70th percentile in opponent 3-point shooting when he's on the court. So it's not like bad shooting luck. Like there's a strong signal here, the same signal that we see every year. The Brooklyn Nets are a better basketball team when Cam Thomas is off the court, and that's just not a good sign in terms of future stardom.
Yeah, I like Cam Thomas because Cam Thomas is like an objectively fun basketball player to watch. Well, I mean, I say objectively, it's still subjective at the end of the day.
I'm not having any fun watching him.
In my personal opinion. Well, yeah, I was gonna say I don't think Matt likes watching him, but there are things to find in Cam Thomas's game that are fun to watch, but especially on like this Brooklyn Nets team, I think a player like that doesn't serve. Cam Thomas is not in a position where his skill set is going to be able to reap benefits. Like there are certain teams where, yeah, they just need a guy who like toss him a grenade with 6 seconds on the shot clock and let him go to work. Let him come off the bench for, 15, 20 minutes a game and just get buckets. There's teams where like that's necessary. For the Brooklyn Nets, I don't know. I haven't watched enough yet to be like, Cam Thomas is like detrimental to this team's success. They're not trying to win games. Like the Brooklyn Nets are trying to lose. They want Cooper Flagg, baby. So from that perspective, like, yeah, let Cam Thomas go out there and get buckets. But I mean, yeah, the numbers, I'll be interested because right now the numbers are bad. Where it's like you mentioned the on-off data. I was looking at it on Cleaning the Glass, and it's bad. Like, they are much better with him off the floor. Will that hold up? Sample sizes are super small. Less than 200 possessions played so far.
When he's off the floor, like, they look like a decent team.
Right. So I'll just be interested to see how that plays out. I think things will even out to a more reasonable level because they have like an effective field goal percentage of 60% when he's off the floor, which I would be surprised if that held. That's a pretty high mark. But that being said, I think being underwhelmed, or not necessarily underwhelmed, being pumping the brakes a little bit, tempering your expectations on Cam Thomas. I think, we've kind of needed to do that for 2 years. But also, I think a lot of people are they understand what they're getting with Cam Thomas at this point. Like, he's more or less a known variable of like, yeah, he kind of is what he is.
I saw a tweet a couple days ago. It's literally like one of those stat head graphics, but it's comparing Jalen Brunson and Cam Thomas's box score stats. And they're like, we need to have a serious conversation. And I'm like, you need to make some friends, because there's no way you you've spent this much time. Like, there's no way that you have like a regular life and you can come up with stuff like this, like that they're even close to the same stratosphere player.
There's another one I saw that was like, I'm not going to sit here and describe Twitter memes that we saw. Let's move on to my overreaction. And I feel like this is one you maybe will agree with, because I think you and I are pretty bullish on his coaching. Phoenix Suns, good team, in my opinion. I have liked 95% of what I've seen from the Phoenix Suns. And then that other 5% that I didn't like is just a picture of like Yusuf Nurkic. I think the Suns are a good basketball team. Specifically, I think a lot of this team is just like, yeah, you have Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker. Like, that helps a lot. But they've had Ryan Dunn starting in some games, and he's been just like the straw that stirs the drink, like defensively. Like, he played amazing defense on LeBron. And I know LeBron's like 40 years old. I get it. Luka got his against Ryan Dunn. There's only so much you're going to be able to do against Luka Doncic, but Ryan Dunn like played really good defense on him, just one-on-one. And not only that, but like the star matchups that he's played really well. But then you look at like the help defense, anchoring the interior sometimes, it's like, whoa, this guy is really good. And that's like ignoring the 3-point shooting. And I'm working on a video on Ryan Dunn right now. It's like he made more threes in preseason than he did his entire college career, which is unreal. And then in the NBA so far, he's shooting like 43%, which we'll see how much that holds. But he's on pace to attempt over 300 threes this year. I'm like, this was a guy who I was looking at old scouting reports for Ryan Dunn, and everything was like, this dude is going to be a monster defensively. Like 6'6" wing, 7'2" wingspan, unbelievable athlete, can jump out the gym, but he just can't shoot. Like, it would really be nice if he could shoot the basketball. And the Suns got him, and all of a sudden they've got this guy who, okay, he's unbelievable perimeter defender, can do a lot of help side defense for you, anchoring your paint on occasion when the center gets pulled out to the perimeter, which the Suns desperately need because they have Yusuf Nurkic and Mason Plumlee as their center rotation. But then now he's like your offense doesn't crater when he's on the floor. You don't automatically give the opposing team a guy that they can happily help off of. And I'm just like, having that kind of player in a Mike Budenholzer coach team, which is like Mike Budenholzer just knows how to get the most out of his team offensively, next to Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. And this team was already the 6th seed last year. I look at that and I'm like, if they were as good as they were last season, without all of these things working in their favor, how good can they be this season now that they have all of this stuff going right for them? And that's why I'm like, I see what they're doing right now, and I'm like, oh, I get it. They've kind of like moved into the next step of like, okay, we got a bunch of talent. What do we do with it? Now they're like, oh, we have a bunch of talent. Now we're rounding things out. We've got the coach. We've got the players. Like, let's see what we can do. And I like the Suns, man. I never thought I mean, I know Kevin Durant's a polarizing player. Devin Booker's a polarizing player. We've talked about Devin Booker on this podcast before at length, but I like this team.
Yeah, I'm going to hold off on my Suns takes. I've only seen one of their, I think they've played 5 games now. I'm going to try to watch something after this, but I'm going to hold off on my broad the Suns takes for now. I want to talk a little bit about Ryan Dunn. So, I mean, you always like for example, like Domantas Sabonis, right? Domantas Sabonis, like, you hear these stories like, oh, he's like a legit stretch big now. Like he's taking threes every day in the gym. But then you see like his shot in game and you're like, yeah, like he's hitting like 40% of them, but it takes him like a week to get the shot off. Like that doesn't do anything for anybody. Like the defense is like, oh, cool. Like I could still sag off you because I have like 3 minutes to get over there to contest your shot if I really need to. Ryan Dunn. So like I kept seeing stuff on Twitter because, I don't watch preseason. So I'm seeing stuff on Twitter. I'm like, oh, this guy, Ryan Dunn, dude, this changes everything. Like he's a knockdown shooter. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I've seen this movie before. And then I watched that Dallas game and he took a 3. It wasn't even from the corners, from the slot. Hit it. Really nice fluid motion. When I watched it in real time, I'm like, all right, let's rewind this. You got that little half speed feature on the League Pass. Do a half speeder. I'm like, huh. That's interesting. And then I'm like, let's pull up some clips on the good old synergy, pull up some 3-point shooting. I'm like, weird. This is fast. This is a fluid form. It's easily replicable. These are all the things that they told me like are important to good jump shooting. I'm like, huh, this guy can actually shoot the basketball. And it's like last season. So the 2 things the Suns team last season really needed, they needed ball handling, right? Which they got in Tyus Jones, Monty Morris. I'm not super high on them in the playoffs. I think regular season wise, really good players, whatever. But they also needed like a forward who could protect the rim, space the floor, be big, right? And Dunn's only 6'6", but that 7'2" wingspan means he can play big, offer that secondary rim protection, and he can shoot. So I'm like, they've addressed their needs. So what does that mean there? Like, are they? And then there's some teams in the West that are looking a little shaky. Those Denver Nuggets, they don't look as hot as they used to. There might be some room. The Timberwolves are looking awesome. Julius Randle, kind of clunky. The fit offensively there. There might be some room for the Suns in the upper echelon. We don't know. I'm going to have to watch more of them. But this guy, Ryan Dunn, he's something special.
Yeah, I'm fully overreacting to Ryan Dunn. And like you said, this is a big part of the video I'm working on. Is like, it's one thing, like you said, when a shooter like a Derrick Jones Jr., it's like, yeah, he can shoot well from 3 because the defense is a mile away from him and they're happy to give him open threes because they know, you're either going to have a week to close out or he's not even going to take the shot. But Ryan Dunn, it's like the dude gets the ball and if he's open, he's shooting it, then it's going to be a quick shot. And even if the 3-point shooting levels out to like a more reasonable level, which I'm sure it will, I've seen enough to where I'm like, the upside for the shot is there, because I think it was Matt Powers who did an article on this, but like some of the biggest indicators for developing a shot, like, yeah, free throw shooting is really important. Ryan Dunn's not a very good I say not very good. I think that's underselling it. He's a bad free throw shooter right now. But I think Matt Powers said, like, in his article about it, was volume is one of the big indicators for developing 3-point shooting. And the fact that Ryan Dunn is on pace to attempt over 300 threes this season, I'm like, the willingness to take them is important. I would be surprised if he is not able to be like, even like career average 36% 3-point shooter would be huge in the context of this Suns team. So that's my overreaction is I think the Suns are a just really good team. And like you said, with how the West is kind of looking right now, I think there's a world where they're a top 4 seed, a realistic world where they're a top 4 seed.
Quick, take a guess here before we move on to the next one. How many threes per 100 do you think he's taking?
I think he's attempting like 3 per game in like 20 minutes right now. I don't know what that translates to per 100.
11.6. 93rd percentile league wide.
Wow. That's a lot.
Love that.
That probably won't,
love that.
Well, I guess that translates to like 8 per 75, but still.
Yeah, you gotta love that, man. Okay, second underreaction for me. Yeah. And this is rich coming from me because I'm always like talking about this team. You know, I love their star player. We've talked at great lengths about how much we love this guy. Hold your horses on the Cleveland Cavaliers. They are now 5-0. Right? Okay, you're making a face. What do you...
I'm surprised that this is the direction you're going in.
Well, so my thing with the Cavs is like we've talked about this. To win big in the NBA, you need talent and fit. The Cavaliers have like enough talent in the treasure chest, but they don't have the fit. It's the same team. It's the same 2 bigs, 2 smalls, not enough in between, right? You can't play your 4 best players from the court at the same time. That's not usually a good sign. They're better when 2 of them are hurt. We've talked a lot about this. They never made the trade. They still haven't done it yet. I think if they make the trade, if they trade one of Allen or Garland or Mobley, keep Mitchell no matter what, one of those 3, then and you get a forward, you get another 2-way guy, then you become like a instant inner circle title contender to me. That's how good I think Donovan Mitchell is. That's how good I think the other pieces are. But they didn't do that. Okay. And right now they're 5-0. And if I told you at the beginning of the season that they were 5-0 and they were first in either defensive rating or offensive rating, you'd probably guess defensive rating, right? Well, they're third in defensive rating and they're first in offensive rating. Okay. And it's not because Kenny Atkinson has turned this into the 2015 Golden State Warriors offense. It's a lot of pick and roll. It's a lot of pull-up shooting from Garland and Mitchell. And Garland's hitting his shots again, but I don't think he's a 46% 3-point shooter on his pull-up diet. And here's a good stat for you. So right now, we always talk about opponent 3-point shooting, right? And how wide open threes are very volatile, prone to luck. We never really talk about it on the offensive end. Right now, the Cavs are hitting 53% of their open 3-pointers. Okay. The next closest team to them is the Charlotte Hornets at 48%. Last season, the Cavaliers hit 39.6% of their wide open threes, which is a good mark, and it makes sense for the level of personnel they have shooting wise. So I don't think they're going to hit half of their open threes for the rest of the season. And I think offensively, it's just like, it's the same thing. It's the same thing where it's like weird spacing because you have Allen and Mobley, a lot of pick and roll, a lot of the other one in the dunker spot. I still don't think like Mobley's taking that offensive leap that I was really looking for. Although Allen's finishing package is like your chef's kiss right now. I don't know if you've been keeping too keen of an eye on it, but he's been, some of his stuff on the rolls is impressive. Like he did I don't even know how to describe the move, but he went like, there was against the Wizards, I'll have to clip this, maybe turn it short, but he was going to the rim and there was a guy helping from the right side, trying to block his shot. And he like turned his body and like did like a right hand reverse dunk on the left side. And I'm just like what are you? You know, like that was insane. But I just don't like, I don't think they're any different than they were last year. You know what I mean? And so they shouldn't be seen as like the cream of the crop. I think they're like a second tier contender as currently constructed.
I think The problem is Mobley is off to like a really good start, which I think is promising. Like that's big. And like in, only 118 possessions, you were like, you can't have your 4 best players on the floor together. So far, they are plus 18.5 in 118 possessions when they have Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, and Allen on the floor together. So there is some gelling happening, but like you said, that could just be a shooting luck thing. You shook your head.
I'm not buying it, dude. We've been seeing this movie for the last 3 years. Like, I don't like what could have changed, like possibly other than like Mobley developing a jumper and like Garland being better at attacking off the catch. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, like Mobley developing a jumper. That's a pretty big thing, right?
I'm saying,
Darius Garland
has that happened?
Well, Mobley's shooting like a career high right now.
Yeah, but it's on low volume. I mean, let me double check that, make sure there's nothing mysterious going on here. But I'm pretty sure it was still like his usual low volume. Yeah, he's still 12th percentile in 3-point attempts per 100 possessions. So he's no Ryan Dunn.
Well, yeah. Come on, it's hard to be Ryan Dunn. But I agree with that. That being said, I do think offensively Mobley is showing more. And he's like looking for his shot more and being a bit more aggressive as a scorer. And that's a big thing. That's like been the criticism of Mobley for a long time, is like, if he's not able to contribute offensively, then you're playing 4-on-5 out there. And especially when you have to deal with the clunky fit of like Jarrett Allen at center and Evan Mobley at power forward. If Mobley's not playing like a power forward that can score the basketball, then you're handicapping yourself. But you also then consider like Darius Garland. If Darius Garland is truly back to like 2022 Darius Garland, where he's like able to shoot pull up threes at like one of the highest rates in the league, if he's able to kind of hunt that in between game a little bit more and punish drop coverage, if he's able to knock down his spot up threes and not be like a complete sieve defensively, and at least like do some of the defensive playmaking and give effort. All of those things, to me, it's like, it's a lot that needs to go right. And it would be like, if it happens now, why is that? But I do think like there are things that Evan Mobley has done so far where it's like, this could be real. And Darius Garland, it's like, it's not a question of can he do it? It's like, can he get back to doing it? And he's had to obviously adjust over the years and deal with the injuries and whatnot. So I do think it's reasonable to tailor expectations, but I don't think there's not like this gigantic wall that the Cavs have to scale to become a top tier contender. It's like, can they continue to do what they've been doing for, string together multiple months of this? I think that's the question, where that's not like an insurmountable task to me. So, okay.
Obviously, me and you, we had a podcast once upon a time, Power Rankings, a couple months ago, or weeks ago now.
Right.
We had, what did we have? We had we thought the Knicks, we thought the Mavericks, we thought the Thunder, we thought the Celtics. Like, that's our inner circle. Are you ready to put the Cavs in the inner circle right now?
No, but I am ready to overreact.
All right, go on. Go on to your next one.
No. I'm saying like, I'm saying that like, I think it's reasonable to not put them in the top tier yet, but I think also I'm in the camp of people who's like, I see what they're doing now. And if they continue to do this and this is real for like, if we get to the end of November and they're still this team, then I'm like, yeah, they're top tier. But I do think it is entirely reasonable to be like, let's pump the brakes and see them do it consistently, because we have seen this story before. So I'm with you in that regard. I think I'm just a little bit more optimistic on it than you are.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think they need a trade. I think I need to see a trade. I need to see a little shake up there. That's like my thing with them, the Pelicans, still kind of the Suns, to be honest. But I need to watch more of the Suns. But before I let you get to your second overreaction, just a reminder that me and Alex were both brand ambassadors with Basketball Sports Reference, StatHead, all that good stuff. And the podcast is sponsored by them. So, or not, what's the term? They are a sponsor of the podcast, not sponsored, brought to, they're not, we're not, or we were discussing this earlier.
They sponsor the podcast.
Okay, but it's not brought to you by.
I don't know exactly how we describe it. No, we are not like this is not a presented by, this podcast is not presented by them, but they sponsor the podcast. We use code MediaPass for your StatHead subscription.
I think I should be not allowed to do that. I should not be allowed to do the ad read, but yeah, use the code MediaPass. It's the name of the podcast. If you use it, you get 20% off a 1-year subscription to StatHead. I actually was using that before earlier today, researching stuff for this article. I actually just found out that Domantas Sabonis is the only player in NBA history to have his first 4 games of the season average at least 24 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists on 75% true shooting. He's the first player to ever do that. Found that out because of StatHead. You can do it too. There's so many cool queries. But make sure you sign up for a year-long subscription because that's what helps me and Alex pay the bills here on the podcast front. Helps us bring you more episodes, more content, more banter, more under and overreactions. But again, that's Media Pass, 20% discount. It'll be in the show notes, correct? Yeah. Correct, anyways, Alex, yes. Overreaction number 2. What do you got?
My overreaction is, well, maybe I'm underreacting. I'm overreacting to everyone else's overreaction about the Minnesota Timberwolves. Because I think my opinion on the Minnesota Timberwolves coming into this season was, yes, I did say that I still think they're capable of being a contender. I would maybe put some qualifiers on that now, a good number of qualifiers. But regardless, this is a team that I looked at, and heading into this season, I was like, this team is going to take some time to gel. Like this, whatever this team is going to look like this year, it's not going to happen immediately. Like I did not think that this team was going to be like better than they were last year overnight. This is going to take a while. And right now there seems to be a lot of overreaction about like, why is Ant taking all of these pull-up threes? What happened to the Timberwolves defense? Jaden McDaniels isn't being what they need him to be. The offensive fit is clunky and all that, and all this different stuff. And I'm like, this team is a team that the first 2 months of the season, we're going to be like, do the Timberwolves suck now? Like, this team sucks. But then we're going to get to January and they're going to start figuring things out. Ant's going to clean up the shot diet a little bit. They're going to establish some. Oh, what are you shaking your head about? What do you got?
It's just funny how you assume that Ant and Julius Randle are going to clean up their act, but continue.
Okay, well, so let's unpack that a little bit. Why do you think that? Julius Randle, I said nothing about him yet, but Anthony Edwards, what do you think?
Don't group them in together.
Do you think? Well, let me ask you this, because I've been thinking about this a lot. Anthony Edwards, for his career, prior to this season, attempted around 7 threes a night. Okay? This season, he's attempting 13 threes a night. Do you think that that's something that he just was like, that didn't tell anyone, no discussion was had about it? Do you think that this is something that he just came into the season and was like, guys, I'm going to take a ton of threes now and there's nothing you can do about it? There was no warning. Do you think that this is just something that like manifested out of nowhere for Anthony Edwards?
I just want to pull this up to make sure my theory is correct here. Sorry if you hear my dog. He's a mess.
Oh, you're fine.
But yeah, so his mid-range is down. So I assume the idea is take away a couple of those mid-range pulleys, turn them into 3-point pull-ups. I'm sure that was like the theory. I mean, they need him. I'm not saying like they need him to carry it with a high load on this offense, especially with no Karl Anthony Towns, especially with like the spacing problems that Randall and Gobert present, and still to some degree Jaden McDaniels, because he's not like an elite spacer, even though he continues to improve in that regard. But it's just like, I don't know, I think he settles too much for jumpers for my liking, personally. I think he's just such a great athlete. You know, I know this is maybe a little too old school thinking, but I think he could take more shots at the rim. I think he should be like I think right now he's they have him in the 31st percentile in shots at the rim. He should not be anywhere near that. He should be in the 80s, 90s. Like, he's a sensational athlete. I understand some of it's the spacing problems that Gobert and Randall present, but he's got to be attacking more.
I agree with that. I'm totally on board with that. I do think he is taking too many threes. I don't think that is just like why is he not getting to the rim more? I think there is like a conscious decision being made right now as this team is figuring out what they're going to be going forward. I don't think that's just like a coincidence of like, oh, Anthony Edwards no longer has any interest in going to the rim. I think there is a method to the madness, which is why I'm saying like everyone needs the things that are happening right now aren't happening just because like, you know, everyone's brains became scrambled eggs and all of a sudden Anthony Edwards is like, go to the rim. What's that? Like, this is intentional stuff. Like there are very smart people on the Timberwolves coaching staff that are behind this. Like, these are conscious decisions that are being made. And right now the reasons behind them probably aren't very clear. And so a lot of people are seeing the 3-point volume of Anthony Edwards and they're like, why is he doing this? What's wrong with the Timberwolves coaching staff? And I'm like, right now in the first week of the season, we're seeing this stuff and we're like, why is this happening? Let's revisit this in January, where things start to become a little bit clearer. We have larger sample sizes and we can kind of see what the Timberwolves are working towards, because right now we're at the beginning of it where they have to kind of rebuild the identity of this team from scratch after trading Karl Anthony Towns, who was a very big part of this team's identity. Now they're picking up the pieces and figuring out what they're going to be going forward. That takes time. And so it's not as much an overreaction as more of it as much as it is just like, let's hold on. Let's see what they're doing. Let's see what they're trying to be first.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, so they went from 23rd in 3-point attempts last season to 7th so far this year. Obviously, 3-point percent. Taking more threes gives you a higher ceiling as an offense. You have more volatility. You can have those nights where you hit 50% of your threes, and even though your offensive process isn't looking great, you could still win the game. But my thing with the Timberwolves, just like overarching still, is I don't think they can be the number one defense again this year, only because I think it takes so much competitive stamina to go back to back, like first best defense in the NBA, historically great defense. I don't think they're missing Karl Anthony Towns or anything like that. I think they more than make up for it with getting an extra like helpful body in Dante DiVincenzo. I think him and Cat and Randall are mostly a wash in that regard. I just think it's hard, right? I think to keep that level of intensity on defense for a full 2 seasons. So I think they'll drop off a little bit there. And I'm just worried. I don't see their offense. And maybe that's the reason why they're taking all these threes, is to keep their offense at a higher level than it was last year to make up for the expected drop off with the defense. And if they can get that, if the offense can be an improvement over what it was last year, more of an improvement over what is last year than the defense is declining, then I'm like, okay, yeah, this is still like a pretty great team, a team that can give teams a hard time. I don't know. I have such a hard time with not enough playmaking. They can't put enough playmaking around Anthony and Randall without sacrificing size. And it's just like I said, it's something we were talking about earlier in the system. I just have a hard time seeing them find that perfect blend lineup wise.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can point out for the Timberwolves and question whether or not it's like a scalable mountain. But I do think this team is like clearly working towards something. Like, this is far from the finished product of what the Timberwolves are going to be, which is why I'm reluctant to write them off because when they traded for we did the same thing when they traded for Gobert. The first season with Gobert and Cat, everyone was like, this is a disaster. And then next year, they made the Western Conference Finals. And so Tim Connolly is a very smart general manager. And I think he knows what he's doing. Chris Finch is a very good coach. And I think he knows what he's doing. And that team has very good players. And I think they're capable of fulfilling whatever vision this general manager and this coaching staff has. So I'm like, it's not clear right now, but you just got to trust the process. And I think that they've earned that benefit of the doubt, which is why I'm reluctant to make any sweeping claims about them so early.
That is fair. That is fair. And I appreciate that kind of foresight. It's like in gambling, right? Where it's like you can't, especially like the NFL, right? I'm being serious. Like in the NFL, you can't like say, oh, like look what happened this last week to these two teams. Like this is what's going to happen the following week. Like you need to be able to think forward, right? You can't just be looking reactively.
Right. And
I do appreciate kind of you mentioning the extreme changes that are going on with like the offensive process this year and why it's like them trying to fine tune something and just trusting all of that. So I think it was a good take, even though you are a Minnesota Timberwolves homer.
Yeah. Thunder homer at the end of the day, but what's your next underreaction?
So this is actually my nice one. So I've been kind of like angry, grumpy old Matt, but I am underreacting to the takes that Tyrese Haliburton is cooked. Okay. So in my personal life, give you another glimpse, just hanging out with my buddies, watching some TV, and I live in Michigan, so they're all Pistons fans, all Cade Cunningham fans. And somebody goes like, hey Matt, like, we're a couple beers deep at this point, and they're like, hey Matt, like, who's better, Cade Cunningham or Tyrese Haliburton? And I'm like, I started like laughing to myself. I'm like, dude, Tyrese Haliburton's on an entirely different level than this guy. Like, I love Cade Cunningham, but Tyrese Haliburton is like, we're talking legit all NBA player, one of the best offensive players on the planet. Like, this guy is incredible. And he's like, okay, like, usually when I say stuff like that, like people, my friends are kind of like, Matt's the basketball guy in the friend group. Like, let him have the take, whatever. This guy texted me last night and he's like, hey man, why is Cade Cunningham looking a lot better than Tyrese Haliburton right now? And I'm like, it's only been 5 days. Like, it's like I just like laughed it off because like I'm like, I don't really have time to send like this guy like an essay. Like, I'm a writer for a living. I don't need to type any more words that I normally do. But I don't know, man. I think people are going a little too crazy with the Tyrese Haliburton stuff. So there's 3 things that I've been thinking about lately with it. His numbers, like if we pulled him up right now, I think he is 14 points per game, 6 assists a game. He's shooting 25% from 3. His true shooting, like this guy's like supposed to be like an efficiency god, and he's shooting 43.8% true shooting, which is actually, believe it or not, 15% worse than Cam Thomas right now. So that's not usually a good sign. But the first thing is I don't even know if he's healthy, to be honest. I mean, he was dealing with injuries all throughout last season. He had the back spasm, and then it came out that he was doing all that Team USA stuff with injuries. So I'm not 100% sure he's healthy. We've seen in the past how less than 100% Tyrese Haliburton can really struggle because he relies so much on that 3-point shot. And I know Caitlin Cooper's talked at length about like how much he needs like his lower body to load up for his particular shot form and how it messes with his step back. So that could be a variable right there. Another thing, like we always are so quick to talk about like shooting variance when it's like a guy shooting like 55% from 3 and like this is not going to last forever, right? We always talk about it like that. We don't really talk about it in the opposite direction where it's like, this guy's like a historically like really, really good shooter. Like the only guy who's ever really been able to come close to like Steph Curry's like 2015-16 season in terms of pull-up shooting. He has like the pedigree where you should kind of trust that he'll go through cold streaks, he'll get out of them. Like that could just be what's happening right now. He could be going through a cold streak. His 3-point shot's going to come back. And we'll forget about this. And then the last thing, I think this is really specific to the assists. He's down like 4 assists per game right now. And I think a big deal, it could just be like, they're trying to give Andrew Nembhard more run. They're trying to give Ben Mathurin more run. Like, there is only one ball at the end of the day. And so Haliburton's counting stats might look a little less. I don't think he's regressed as a passer. It's actually, this is a separate take. I think we've talked about this before, but I think it's like literally impossible to get worse as like a pure passer over time, because that's such like an experience based thing. Like how, like you have to like get like a really bad concussion and just like lose your ability to like,
you would have to experience like brain trauma.
Yeah, no, seriously. So I don't think he's getting worse as a passer. So I don't know. To me, like, I think Haliburton's fine.
Yeah.
Do NBA players get concussions?
I'm completely with you. I'm sure they do. Like, I'm sure some guy has like gotten undercut midair going up for a dunk and like came down and smacked his head on the hardwood and gotten a concussion. Certainly it's happened, but I think Steven Adams has had a couple concussions actually.
Okay.
Which I guess if any players, I feel like if I had to guess which players have had concussions, Steven Adams would be like probably top 3 on the list. I feel like that just makes sense to me. But anyways, I agree. I was watching I think somebody tweeted about it, but somebody said something along the lines of like, we're coming up on the Tyrese Haliburton game where it's like, oh yeah, Tyrese Haliburton is good. Like that game is coming. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen at some point. I'm very much not worried about Tyrese Haliburton, who like his whole thing is shooting. And it's like, yeah, do we think that he just like can't shoot it? Like, I don't know how. I think a lot of people are just like doing the early season recency bias thing where they trick themselves into like, oh, this guy can't shoot anymore. And it's like, do you know how often that happens? Like that does the number of times that has happened in NBA history is like infinitesimally small. Like it's not a realistic thing that happens on a frequent enough basis to where you can look at what's happening with Tyrese and be like, oh, guess he can't shoot anymore. It's like, come on. Does anyone really think that? Let's be serious here. The pendulum always swings back with shooting variance. That's why it's like variance is what it is for a reason. But was that your last underreaction?
Yes. Yeah. So you're finishing us off again. What was that real quick before you share your last one? What was that word you just used?
Infinitesimally. It is a word, I believe. Yes. Infinitesimally. I said it wrong. Immeasurably or incalculably small.
The only two I think the only two times
I was like, that is a word, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd never heard it. I'm supposed to be the resident writer, thinker guy here, but the only 2 times I can think of that's happened that me and you were watching basketball for would probably be Fultz. Obviously, is the most famous one. And I think Russell Westbrook's kind of free throw shooting, but that's about it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can count on one hand how many times it's happened, like that we've been able to like parse out. Mm-hmm. And with Fultz, it was explicable because of thoracic outlet syndrome, allegedly. There's a lot of conspiracy theories about what happened with Fultz, but different pod. And then with Westbrook, they changed the rules on your free throw shooting routine, and you had to change your shooting routine. So it was like things that had a logical explanation. Moving on. Anyways, I'm going to avoid overreacting because I don't want to get I had a take about the Timberwolves. I don't want to get too ahead of myself and have a take about the Thunder.
No.
That's 2 homer teams.
What was the take?
I think I guess it's more of just like, man, the Thunder are really good. So I'm not gonna give a take about that, because it's just pretty straightforward. Let me pose a hypothetical here. LaMelo Ball is healthy for a full season, which is a big if. Is this version of LaMelo Ball like a top 20 player in the NBA?
Yeah. Yes, it is. It definitely is. No, I don't know why it took me so long. If he's continuing, I don't know why. No, yes, of course. As long as he continues to, this is terrible podcasting, but I'm like, I hate that I hesitated there. I just wanted to check. I wanted to just check last night because I know he had a big game again last night. I wanted to see if his 3-point percentage had gone way up because last time I checked, it was at 41%. Now it's actually back down to 39%. So the fact that he's still doing like all this crazy stuff and it's not like insane 3-point shooting, like he's like a good enough shooter to say 39% is legit. But what I'm loving about him this year, getting to the rim, drawing fouls, he's averaging 9 free throws per 100. That is sustainable. There's no variance in getting to the rim, putting your head down, drawing fouls. I'm sorry I'm taking your overreaction. Go ahead. But yeah, I think he's a top 20 player if he keeps playing.
I want you to do it. Come on, take point. I'm passing you the rock.
He's getting all NBA vote if he keeps playing like this.
Yes. That I'm with you. And he's gonna twist an ankle in like December, and then all my like hopes and dreams with LaMelo Ball are gonna come crashing to the ground. But man, for the next couple of months until that happens, I'm going to enjoy the ride because LaMelo Ball, there is not a better show in basketball right now than LaMelo Ball. This dude is so much fun to watch. Like, did you see that step back that he had? I think he had like, it was the Hawks game that they had, and he had like Trae Young on him. And dude, he hit a step back. It was like a little tween like step back with Trae Young on him, and the ball released so fast. Like it was probably because you think about like a step back, you think of like Luka and James Harden where it's like a little bit slower, but then you've got like the Steph Curry step backs and the LaMelo Ball step backs where it's like, how on earth are they able to like do that so quickly and still like make the shot? Because like I could shoot a step back and put it up really fast. It's not going in the hoop. I can promise you that. But LaMelo Ball does it, and I'm like, if you had a stopwatch, the time from when he starts the step back to when the ball is released is like less than 1 second. It is unfathomably fast. And just the stuff that he does, I'm like, how many other players in basketball can do some of the stuff that LaMelo Ball does? The shots that he's capable of hitting, the running floaters that he's capable of hitting. Did you see the one in the Raptors game last night where I think it was like, he drove left, and as he's falling out of bounds, getting fouled, he puts up like a baseline running floater, and it didn't even hit the rim. Like it was the perfect arch, directly straight down into the hoop, through the net barely moved. And it's like, what other players in basketball are doing the stuff that he's doing? Like I part of this is who LaMelo Ball has been. Like a lot of this is stuff that he has done in the past, but also I think he's just genuinely improved as a player. Like he is taking a leap right now, going from like, yeah, cool young star point guard to like, oh, this is like top 20 player in the NBA, LaMelo Ball. And it's so much fun to watch. And
the only thing,
they're not winning a lot of games, but they are winning some games.
Yeah, the only hesitation I have is because I know there's been like something funky going on with the officiating early on in the season. There's been like a big spike in fouls. I think they're gonna fix that. There's something weird going on where they're letting people, like whenever defender is in jail, they're letting the ball handler kind of do that thing where they bump into him and draw a foul that they got out last season. But I don't think LaMelo leans on that too much, so I'm not too worried about it. As long as he can keep his free throw rate up at this like 9 to 10 per 100, like I'm really sold on this, especially because he's a high 30s 3-point shooter on insane volume. He just plays with so much speed. Yeah, he's awesome, man. He is. Wow, like he's sensational. I'm at a loss for words. Like it's crazy. Like when you watch like a Hornets game on the Hornets broadcast, like you really think you're on like some sort of like hallucinogen because like you have him playing at this insane speed, and then you have Eric Collins talking like as fast as he always does. It's like you don't know he talks, right? Especially like when the Hornets are like moving and grooving. Like it's just like you're hearing all these voices, you're seeing all these movements, you're like starting to smell sounds, and it's just like crazy.
That's a great way to put it. Did you have any bars that you want to get off before we're an hour in? We've gotten our underreactions, our overreactions. What do you got?
I'm surprised you haven't texted me about this. Like I'm kind of concerned with our friendship that you haven't said anything about this. There's a player who,
oh boy,
he's gotten off to a hot start this season. A little redemption tour. You know what I'm talking about?
Who?
A little redemption arc. One of my all-time favorites. Little combo guard. Plays in a pretty important city politically. Our good friend, Jordan Poole.
Oh, Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole.
Dude, Jordan Poole. How about I tell you? Right now, 22.5 points per game, 68% true shooting.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good, man. Keep an eye on him. Keep an eye. What did we say? We said we wanted I asked specifically from the basketball gods. I went up to the Holy Land and I said, can I have 22 points on 59% true shooting this year?
The Lord's light shines upon you, Matt. Ask and you shall receive.
You think it's sustainable?
So the vibe I get from the Wizards is like they're not going to be good, but there's going to be a lot of stuff for the Wizards this year that you can come away happy with. And I think one of those things is going to be like making Jordan Poole empowered in a controlled way. And I think that's the key to getting that 22 points per game on 59% true shooting is like empowering Jordan Poole without giving Jordan Poole the ultimate green light. Like put him in a structured environment to where like, okay, we're going to make sure you get your 22, but you're going to do it on our terms. And it's not going to come at the detriment of the team's development, which is where I've been a bit more pleased with how things have looked for him this year. I think they're a funner team than I thought they were going to be.
I'll add that he is shooting 57% from three right now. Probably not going to stay that way. And he's also in the first percentile in defensive EPM, right there with Cam Thomas. So
they ain't paying him to play defense, that's for sure. Well, now that we've gotten our weekly Jordan Poole check-in out of the way, Matt, did you have anything you want to add before we wrap up here?
Just a reminder, everybody ask questions. You know, we love answering them. It's a lot of fun for me and Alex. We like to engage with our listeners. We are very appreciative of you guys. You guys are the reason that we get to do this. And you should really sign up for a StatHead subscription. Media Pass, the code 20%. Could really change your life. Year-long one. That'd be a good one to do.
Yeah, I echo everything Matt said. Media Pass, get 20% off your subscription to StatHead if you do the year-long subscription. All that out of the way, guys, thank you so much. Like Matt said, we seriously cannot tell you enough how much we appreciate you listening if you made it this far. It really does help us out a ton. And I'm just glad the season's back. I'm glad we're getting to do this again. One of my favorite parts of the week. Leave a 5-star rating. We're starting to rack those up. I think we're up to like 23 5-star ratings on Spotify. So go ahead and do that. Do it on Apple podcasts, Amazon podcasts, whatever you listen on. Make sure you go ahead and leave us a 5-star rating. Leave your comments below with questions. We'll answer them in the next episode. We love answering them. Guys, follow us on Twitter at AlexHoops_, at Mat Issa 15, MATISSA 15. Thank you guys so much for listening / watching. We'll see you in the next one.